Off in Mark chapter 1. What we've been doing now for several months is going through each of the books of the Bible one at a time and devoting basically a lesson or a sermon to each book. And so we're all the way to Mark's Gospel. Now Matthew, we talked about this last week, but it doesn't mean you remember it. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the four Gospels. What the four Gospels are biographies about Jesus. If you want to know about Jesus' birth, His life, His death, and His resurrection, you would read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're four different biographies. And so last week we used this as an illustration. We're going to use it again. These are four Abraham Lincoln biographies. And so this one was written by Carl Sandburg. This one's written by David Donald. This one's written by Ronald White. And this one's written by James McPherson. So four different people sat down and wrote about the life of Abraham Lincoln. If you read all four of these books, you think they would be identical? Or are these books identical? They better not be. Somebody's going to be in trouble. They're not identical, but they're similar. And you would learn, a lot of them had the same story about where he was born, how he was elected president, but they're a little different. That's what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are. They all tell the story of Jesus, but they're four different authors, and it's four different accounts of the life of Jesus. Now, I did this week. I read one of these biographies this week. Which one do you think I read? This one. I read this one. Why would I read this one? Because I'm not going to read this one, okay? This is really short, okay? I just got interested one day when I was in here in the church, actually. I thought, I'll read that little book. But you know what? Which is the shortest gospel? Who knows? Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John? Mark is the shortest. So if you said, I want to read the whole story of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, you could read Mark. It's about 20 pages. And you would read one of the Gospels. And this morning, we're going to talk about Mark. And actually what we're doing with the Gospels is I'm spending a week on each one of them, which means I talked about Mark on Wednesday night. I'll talk about it this morning. I'll talk about it tonight. But I want to make 3 points out of Mark this morning. And I think that we can learn a lot about Jesus' life and His ministry and about His disciples by considering these points. The first point that's in Mark, and Mark makes a big deal about this, is that Jesus was a famous celebrity who attracted huge crowds. Okay? If you read Mark, you would walk away from it realizing he was really popular and there were huge crowds. And so I'm going to take a few minutes and show that this morning. We're going to start off, and I'm going to do this fast, okay? Mark 1:28. Jesus cast out a demon in Mark chapter 1. Cast a demon out of a person. And in Mark 1:28, this is what the Bible says. And immediately his fame spread throughout all the region around Galilee. So right there it says Jesus' fame immediately began to spread. He became a famous person at that point because of the miracle he had just performed. Now we'll read Mark 1:32 and 33. Okay? It says, at evening when the sun had set, they brought to him all who were sick and those who were demon-possessed. And the whole city was gathered together at the door. The whole city came together. In other words, this man became famous, and now here the whole city has come together to witness what he is doing. Okay? We'll skip all the way to chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. It says, again, he entered Capernaum after some days, and it was heard that he was in the house. Immediately, many gathered together, so there was no longer room to receive them, not even near the door. And he preached the word to them. This is actually the story where they had to let the man down to the roof because the crowd was so big and some people had gathered together they couldn't even get in here. Obviously, I'm not that popular. Thank you, Shay. Okay, so I'm not famous. There's room to add more people. But when Jesus was there, the place was packed. It was so crowded, you couldn't even get to the door to get in. He was famous. The whole towns were coming out to hear him. The place was jam-packed. Okay, chapter 2, verse 13. And he went out again by the sea. And all the multitude came to him, and he taught them. The whole multitude is coming together. Verse 15. Now it happened as he was dining in Levi's house, that many tax collectors and sinners also sat together with Jesus and his disciples. For there were many, and they followed him. Okay? Go all the way to chapter 3, verses 7 through 9. Listen to this. So Jesus withdrew from his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee followed him, and from Judea, and Jerusalem, and Idumea, and around the Jordan, and those from Tyre and Sidon. A great multitude, when they heard how many things he was doing, came to him. So he told his disciples that a small boat should be kept ready for him because of the multitude, lest they should crush him. He said, look, we're about to get in a boat. They're about to crush us. It was a mob mentality. The crowds were humongous. And because Jesus was a very famous celebrity who attracted huge crowds. I'll read a few more examples. Chapter 3, verse 20. Then the multitude came together again so that they could not so much as eat bread. They couldn't even eat bread. It was so crowded, okay? The crowds were so huge, it was causing a lot of issues for them. Chapter 3, verse 31. Then his brother, I will skip that one. Let's go to chapter 4, verse 1. It says, and again he began to teach by the sea, and a great multitude was gathered to him, so that he got into a boat and set it on the sea, and the whole multitude was on the land facing the sea. I'll tell you, I'm not going to read all these examples. I could read through it. There's like 20 times where it talks about how huge the crowds were. The crowds are so big in Mark chapter 6. The crowds are so big and they're so interested in Jesus that the disciples said, where are we going to get enough food to feed all these people? There's nowhere to eat out here, and they've been with us a couple of days. Well, how are we going to feed these people? What did Jesus do? Fed 5,000 people, right? Then the next chapter, it happens again. The crowds are still there, and he feeds 4,000 people. So, massive crowds follow Jesus. Mark makes that clear. If you read Mark's gospel, now Mark, this is a little different thing that he does. He repeatedly emphasizes how many people were following Jesus, how big the crowds were. Okay? So we would say today he was a rock star. He was famous. He was popular. There were massive crowds everywhere. One of the biggest crowds I've been in, when I was a kid, George Bush came to Cornelia. Okay? On the Big Red Apple tour. He stopped on the train. He rode the train through town. I can still remember this. And Bush was there, and he wore a Braves jacket because he was trying to get elected, so the Braves were big back then. But most people were there because Ric Flair was there too, riding that train with him. And everybody actually wanted to see Flair. So it was a huge crowd though. People were pushing. It was crowded. It was jam-packed. There was a picture of it in McDonald's in Cornelia forever where all these people would gather together at the Big Red Apple to see the president and Ric Flair come through town. But that's the way it was with Jesus. Massive crowds everywhere. Okay? Now, here's a good question to ask yourself this morning. How many followers did Jesus really have? How many disciples did Jesus really have? Y'all see what I'm trying to get at this morning? You get the picture of the huge crowds. See, you get it in your mind, these people swarming together. These people coming from all over the region to come and get close to him, to hear him. But here's one way we can say it this morning, is just to put it very blunt. How many of those people actually went to heaven and how many of them went to hell? See, how many of them were really his disciples? How many of them were really his followers? And here's the second point we're going to make. So the first point is Jesus attracted massive crowds. Second point is this. The crowd is always a mixed bag. The crowd is a mixed bag. Now what does that mean when I say a mixed bag? This is the easy example right here. This is a bowl of candy. Okay, it's like the bowl of candy that's in the bag. Last week, my kids ate all the candy in the bag. We started putting this bowl of candy out. Okay, but this is a mixed bowl of candy. In other words, there's some green peppermints in here. There's some red peppermints in here. There's some soft peppermints in here. There's some white peppermints in here. There's some Jolly Ranchers in here. So in this bowl, it's a mixed bowl, right? It's not all the same. Well, this is a very simple point. When you get a crowd of people together and you get a crowd of people around Jesus, it's a mixed bag, right? What do I mean by that? Well, what you mean by that is some people were legitimately, sincerely believers and followers of Jesus. They were the people who were going to stay with him till he died, after he rose again, and until they died, they were going to follow him. There were other people in the crowd who were there just because they were interested, just wanted to see what was going on, right? Aren't you sure of that? You think they all were mixed bag. Some of them were interested, some of them were curious, some of them were just following the crowd, and some of them there were dead serious. They had become believers, and they themselves were going to be followers of Jesus. So we would say this, some of them were Christians, some of them were not Christians. Now listen to this. Mark does not record a lot of Jesus' sermons. If you wanted to read the things that Jesus taught, you would read more of that in Matthew, okay? Mark's short. Mark just talks a lot about what he did. But there's 2 chapters where Jesus preaches in Mark. Chapters 4 and chapter 13. And in Mark chapter 4, he tells a story that addresses the issue of the crowd. What is going on with these huge crowds? And so I want to read this little teaching from Jesus that is just something that we all need to understand. It's very important. And it starts in Mark 4, verse number 3. Jesus is going to talk about this, and he's going to teach about how it's a mixed bag. Everybody's not the same. You got some people who are never going to follow him, some who will temporarily follow him, and some who will stay with him all the way to the end. That's the reality of the situation. That's still the reality of the situation. Right? Let's just go ahead and say what the point we're about to make here. Anytime you get a bunch of people together in a church, at a revival service, you've got some in that crowd who are legitimate, wholehearted believers, and they are living their life for the Lord 24/7, 365, right? But is everybody in the crowd that way? No way! You got a mixed group. You got some people who are just there because it's Sunday. Some people are there because their wife wanted them to be there. Some people are there because whatever. They got something going on in their life. It's a mixed group. But Jesus in Mark 4, verse number 3, he explains this. And to me, this parable explains the book of Mark. It explains the crowds and what's really going on here. So I want to read through this, and you can just listen. Jesus said, listen. Behold, a sower went out to sow, and it happened as he sowed that some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds of the air came and devoured it. Some fell on stony ground, where it did not have much earth, and immediately it sprang up because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no crop. But other seed fell on good ground, and yielded a crop that sprang up, increased, and produced some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100. And he said to them, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. Jesus said, I'm going to tell you this story about a man who planted some seed. And it's a really easy story to understand. And he said, a man planted some seed, and some of the seed falls on the wayside, and the birds of the air come and eat it up. So you plant seed, every seed you plant ain't going to come up. Okay? Some of it's going to get eaten by the birds. Some of it fell on the stony ground, the shallow soil, okay, amongst the rocks. And it sprang up, but it didn't have any root. And so after a while, when the sun came up, it withered and died. Other seed fell among the thorns. It came up, but the thorns also came up, and the thorns choked it out. And it produced no fruit. But then he said some seed fell on the good soil. And that seed that fell on the good soil, it produced a good crop. 30, 60, or 100 times that which was planted. Now, his disciples said that, if you read on in Mark 4, they said, can you explain that to us? What does that mean? What are you trying to tell us? And this is what he says. I'm going to read this to you. This is out of chapter 4 still. Jesus explains it. The sower sows the word. And these are the ones by the wayside where the word is sown. When they hear, Satan comes immediately and takes away the word that was sown in their hearts. These likewise are the ones sown on stony ground, who when they receive the word, immediately receive it with gladness. And when they have no root in themselves, so only endure for a time. Afterward, when tribulation or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they stumble. Now these are the ones sown among thorns. They are the ones who hear the word, and the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, and desire for other things entering in, choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. But these are the ones sown on good ground, those who hear the word, accept it, and bear fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100. See, he said, I'm going to explain this parable to you. What it means is, and this is so helpful. You talk about a big crowd, you talk about a big group of people. What's going on here with all these people? He said, well, some of them are like, they're going to hear the word. Everybody in the crowd heard the teachings of Jesus. Every one of them heard what he was saying. But he knew some of them, the devil is going to come and snatch that away, snatch that out of their heart, and they will never respond. Some people, this is just the truth. And Jesus is a great teacher, and what he taught was true. Some people hear the word, some people will go to church on Sunday morning, and they will totally forget about what they heard. It don't make a bit of difference. Before they get to the stop sign, they done forgot about it. Right? It ain't going to impact their life. It's in one ear and out the other. That is some people in the crowd. It ain't going to affect them not one iota. It's not going to make a difference. They're going to go home. They're going to get back to their lives. They're going to do the same things they've been doing. They're going to sin just like they've been sinning. They're going to be whatever. It does not faze them because there's people who Jesus preached to. Now, this is true. It never made a bit of difference. They heard what that man said. They listened to him. They gathered together. They had a seat in the house, and it never fazed them. Now, you might say, that's hard to believe. That is not hard to believe if you've ever been a preacher. That is easy to believe. Some people never faze. They're in the crowd, but it doesn't make a bit of difference. Other people, he said, man, they hear that word, and they receive it immediately with great joy. Yeah. I believe that. I'm in on this. This is what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to live for Jesus. But he said this, as soon as trouble or tribulation arises, they immediately fall away. In other words, they said, I'm going to live for Jesus, but as soon as it brought any conflict, as soon as it inconvenienced them, as soon as it didn't work out like they wanted it to work out, they said, you know what? I ain't got to do all that. They do not last. Then he said, the other ones are those who are falling on the thorns. So some people, they hear the word and they immediately respond. They accept it also. But it's the desire, it's the cares of this life, the deceitfulness of riches, and a desire for other things choke it out. In other words, I'm going to live for Jesus too. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to do what he said to do. But you know what happens? Man, they got too much going on in their life. Their life is so busy, they're worried about other things that, you know what? That eventually, they never produce any fruit whatsoever because their life is too focused and they're too absorbed and wrapped up in other things. So they heard the teachings. But both of them, it was a temporary response. We said, you know what, some of them, they hear it, they accept it, they believe it, and they produce a crop that is 30, 60, or 100 times that which is sown. That's the ones we're looking for. The ones who it makes a permanent difference in their life. So the point is this, it's a mixed bag. A crowd of people is a mixed bag, right? In Jesus' lifetime, all those people were not Christians. You understand that? The crowd is always a much bigger group than the Christian group, right? The crowd is always a mixed bag of people. Some who are truly committed, some who are legitimate believers, some who love the Lord and follow the Lord wholeheartedly, and others who do not. So if that was the case then, that's still the case now. Some still hear it and forget all about it. Some hear and say, yes, but they die. They get choked out. They don't endure. They don't stay with it. Others hear and they follow Jesus for the rest of their life. You know what is so true? You can see these things are still true today, right? I don't have time to get into that parable like I should. It is still... I heard a preacher say this at least 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, and I still remember it. He said, those four categories, the one who fell on the wayside, the one who fell on the stony ground, the one who fell amongst the thorns, the ones who fell on the good soil, you fit as snug as a bug in a rug in one of those four categories. Everybody's in one of those groups. So you've heard the word, you're in the crowd, and either it made no difference, it's never made a difference in your life, it made a temporary difference, or it's made a permanent difference in your life. That's every single person who's ever heard the word, okay? Everybody fits in those categories. Well, in the last 10 years that I've been at Hunters Creek, you can see this, right? We've had hundreds of people, crowds come through these doors, sit in these pews over the 10-year period, okay? We've had 100 people, close to 100 people get in the baptistry, okay? Be baptized. And you know what? It's a mixed bag. In the end, the whole crowd, everybody who comes in, everybody who listens, it's not the same results. Some of them, it never made a difference in their life. Some of them, it made a temporary difference in their life. But then they die, they wither, they get choked out. And some of them, thank God, there's some of them, it made a permanent difference what? I got a list of everybody who comes to Hunters Creek. And you know how I've got it grouped? Now you can't see this list. Those who always come to church. Those who sometimes come to church. Those who rarely come to church. Those who never come to church. Your name's on that list. If you're first time here, your name will be on there next time too. That's why I want your name on. Put your name on the list. But you know what? And we've talked about this. I was telling me, Miss Pauline, we're talking about when we visited on Tuesday night. We had visitation. You say, well, can we get everybody to the always list? Y'all think we're ever going to get everybody to go to the always list? I wish we could. Right? You'd be shocked at how many names on this list added up. There might be 60, 70 people here this morning. I don't know. There's 200 names on that list. Right? But see, you know what we're always going to have? This is just reality. Jesus had it. We're going to have it. A mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. You got some who are going to buy in 100%. And church attendance is not the only thing. I'm just using that as an illustration. But some who are going to really follow the Lord from that point to the day that they die. It's made an eternal difference in their life. They don't get withered. They don't wither and die. They don't get choked out. They persevere. But you got others who, that's just not always. You're not going to bat 1,000, right? You're not going to have 1,000 batting average. Jesus didn't have 1,000 batting average. I'll show you this. This very important thing that Jesus said in Mark 13. The other chapter where he preached. And he talked about the end times, is what he talked about. I was going to read a good bit of this, but I'm just going to read one verse. We talked about what was going to happen before he came back. And in Mark 13, this is what he said. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake. You can almost see that happening already. I mean, Christians are becoming more and more unpopular in the world. And it's really getting to the point where if you want to really stand for the truth and say marriage is between a man and a woman, homosexuality is a sin, abortion is murder, and you want to really stand up and say, I believe this book, I believe everything in this book, I believe God created the world in 6 days. If you believe that, you're going to be more and more unpopular. But this is what he said. You will be hated by all for my name's sake. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. See, Jesus taught this, and it's very clear. The one who is the Christian is the one who sticks with it. See, everybody in that crowd was not a Christian because they came to church back in 1984. Huh? That don't make you a Christian because you went to church in 84. Because you went to church when you were a teenager. Because you went to church growing up. The mark of someone who has been born again, the mark of the one who is on the right path is they endure. They stick with it. They stay the course. They're not perfect, but they don't die. They don't get choked out. They don't wither. They produce a crop. That's what Jesus taught, and it's still the case today. A great example of this, and I could use a lot of examples in Mark's gospel, but y'all probably all know this story. In Mark 12, Jesus told the story about a widow who had 2 pennies. And when Jesus watched everybody put their money in the offering plate, the people put in great sums, but this lady had 2 pennies, but she put them both in the offering plate. And Jesus said, that woman right there gave the greatest gift of anybody because she put in her whole livelihood. So, but you know what I thought about it this week? That lady's a great example. A widow who was poor. You know what that tells me about her? She'd gone through some difficult times. True or false? She's a widow. She's down to 2 pennies. But you know what she's doing? She's still honoring the Lord. She's still following the Lord. She's sticking with it. That's the mark of the one who's truly been born again. They are faithful. That widow was not perfect. She probably gossiped a little bit at some point in her life. But she did stick with it. She endured. You know what is the shocking thing? I'm not even take time to read this. If you read Mark's gospel, Jesus is a rock star. All the way till when? Till the crowds begin to yell, what? Crucify him. Crucify him. The crowds yelled, crucify him. Pilate turned him over to be crucified because the mobs, the huge crowds, were saying, crucify him. Y'all say the paradox there, the surprise there. These people, the crowds, you know what it tells you about those people? This is always true. The crowds are very fickle. You know what that means? They'll change their opinion. And you know what? This is so true. When Jesus was crucified, the crowd gathered together and spat on him. They mocked him. They blasphemed. They wagged their tongues against him. You know what? It's just shocking, but it's still true today. People 1 minute will be for the Lord, and the next minute, you can never tell they were ever living for the Lord. Is that true? Can somebody make, like Christians have said this is just popping in my head, this would be corny. U-turns allowed, you know. You can make a U-turn. Christianity used to be a t-shirt that said U-turns allowed, you know. It's kind of corny. But you know what people do? They'll make a U-turn, and they'll make another U-turn, and they'll make another, right? One U-turn's all you need there, brother. Don't turn around again. But see, people will do that, right? I'm going to live for the Lord, and then next thing you know, I'm not going to do that no more, and they'll get dizzy because they're not faithful. That's the crowd. It's a mixed bag. The crowd in Jesus' day was not faithful to him. In the end, there was nobody there but a few women. There were a few women. There was a man named Joseph who buried him. You know what it tells me? There are a few who are faithful. Amen? There was a few who stuck by him all the way to the grave, and they went there that morning to anoint him and to fix his body up because they were staying with him. But you know what the reality is? The crowds had long since forgot about it. They weren't faithful. They weren't going to endure. It was a mixed bag. So it's still a mixed bag today. And I want to close with this point. I think this is a very important point, and I'll try to hit this as fast as I can. The mixed bag is a mysterious thing. It's a mysterious thing, how it's a mixed bag. Now, Jesus told a little story in Mark 4, verse 26. And this story is only recorded in Mark because I think Mark was interested in these crowds. What's going on here? And he told the story about the seed that falls on the soil to explain all these people aren't with us. All these people aren't legitimate. But in Mark 4:26, he tells this story about a mystery. And listen to this. Listen to this. It's only 3 or 4 verses. He said, the kingdom of God is as if a man should scatter seed on the ground, and should sleep by night and rise by day. And the seed should sprout and grow. He himself does not know how. For the earth yields crops by itself. First the blade, then the head, and after that full grain in the head. But when the grain ripens, immediately he puts it in the sickle because the harvest has come. See, Jesus talks again about planting these seeds. You know what he says? This is the way the kingdom of God works. It's like a man who plants seed. And then he lays down and goes to bed. He puts the seed in the ground. Then he lays down and goes to bed. And all by itself, that seed sprouts. And what it says is, that man does not know how. He himself does not know how that works. Right? All he can do is put it in the ground. It's a miracle that seed germinates. I man doesn't understand all that. He doesn't even know what's going on. It's a miracle. You know, a seed germinating is a miracle. I heard somebody say this one day. This is true. You know what? Everybody freaked out about the eclipse. This is the most incredible thing ever. It's so amazing. You know, I thought it was just got shady is what happened there for a little while. But you know what? Listen to this. Listen to this. If it only rained once every 10,000 years, we would think that was a miracle. Water falling out of the sky. That would be people would have been out there just taking pictures. Water's, but see, it rains every day or every week, so nobody thinks nothing about that, right? That's a miracle. If a baby was born once every 10,000 years, everybody would be like, this is incredible. The baby came out. But see, it happens all the time, so you know what? It's no big deal. But you know what Jesus is teaching? He's teaching right here. That seed sprouting, the earth does it all by itself. All by itself. That little seed of corn will make a stalk of corn that puts on ears of corn. That's a miracle. That's something only God can do. Right? But what he's saying is, it's a mysterious event. That man doesn't even understand it. The earth does it. Well, let me tell you a helpful passage right here. This is what Paul wrote and said about how a person is saved. He said, one man plants, another man waters, but God gives the increase. We plant the seed, and it's hard to explain. When you sow the seed, which is the Word of God, sometimes it grows, sometimes it doesn't grow. It's a mystery. I can't make it grow, right? I don't even know what makes it grow, but God makes it grow, so there's a mystery attached explain why one person gets it right and another person doesn't. Two people can listen to the same preacher. Two people can hear the same service. Two people can be raised in the same house. Same parents. And one of them, man, they begin to believe the gospel. It takes root in their heart, and it totally transforms their life. They make that U-turn, they never go back. The other person, he's heard all the sermons, he's listened to all the lessons, he's heard all the devotions. They didn't let him listen to bad music either, whatever, all the same rules, but it does not work the same way. And so listen to this. This is so true. This will kind of confuse you a little bit, but it's a mystery. I would guess most people in this room have been down to an altar at some point in your life. You've walked down that aisle. Most people have got down and prayed. Most people have been baptized. Most people have said, I want to follow Jesus. From now on, I'm going to live for Jesus. Most people, and they say, man, I feel a lot better now. I've been saved. You know, most people have done that. And most people weren't kidding when they did it. They were pretty serious. I mean, sometimes people say, well, I don't. There are cases where somebody didn't understand, or somebody was too young, or somebody was just following somebody else. But that's not most cases. Most cases, if I baptize somebody, I talk to them beforehand, right? We're going to hash this out a little bit. We're going to figure out what's going on here. But you know what the reality is? There's still a mystery attached to it. While sometimes that seed produces genuine results, and sometimes it doesn't. There's a mystery attached. And see, you want to really blow your mind right here? I don't know if I'll blow your mind or not. I don't even know if you're paying attention. I can't explain why it worked on my 4th try. Say, what are you talking about? I've been baptized 4 times. First 3 times, it didn't make a bit of difference in my life. I was right back to living the way I used to live. Right back to it. You say, well, what happened different? Well, I can say a few things. I mean, I learned a little more the 4th time. I was sincere the first 3 times. I mean, didn't have my fingers crossed. I mean, I wasn't playing games. There's a mystery attached to it. And let me tell you this. I believe this 100%. This is what we've tried to do. And this is why we've led people astray. Christianity is not a formula. In other words, I can't tell you, if you say this prayer, and you walk down this aisle, and you get baptized, you're good to go. So we made it into a formula, where if you do A, B, and C, and then you're part of the crowd, you're good, because you did what we told you to. You know what I did the first 3 times? I know this. I did exactly what the preacher told me to do. I walked in the aisle. When I was 6, my mom prayed with me in Gainesville in our trailer. When I was 9, I walked in the aisle. I was crying my eyes out on Sunday night. I told the preacher, I want to be saved. He said, pray this prayer, and I did it. I mean, I did what he told me to. But it was basically a formula. Do this, do this, do this, do this. You're good. Guess what? It's not a formula. You know what Jesus taught to do? You need to repent and believe the good news. You need to deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. And those are the instructions. And a lot of people, this is the danger. This is what this whole lesson is about this morning. The danger is you feel okay because you're a part of the crowd. I'm here. I'm in the crowd. Everybody in the crowd is not on the right path. Guarantee you that. The second danger is do you feel like you're okay because you followed the formula. Did what the preacher told me to do. I got baptized. There's a mystery attached to this. And I mean, I wish it wasn't. I wish I could say, if you pray this prayer with me, brother, and you get down right here and you pray and you cry a few tears and you get that baptism, your life's going to be changed forever. Guess what? Doesn't always happen. So the real proof is that you are a believer who is wholehearted, who is genuine. I don't say wholehearted. I don't make it sound like you got to be perfect at all, but you're sincerely following Christ. And that continues to happen throughout your lifetime. If you wither or die, you get checked out. Something went wrong in the beginning there. See, you can say that about the parable of the sower, right? It fell on the shallow soil. It fell among the thorns. It didn't get it right at the beginning. And I can't explain exactly. I wish I could put my finger on everything that ever happened in somebody's life. But I know there's been people who have been sincere, and yet they're still not on the right path. And it's obvious by their life. So the thing that Jesus wanted everybody to realize is this. Just because you're in the crowd does not mean that you're legitimate. And The reality is there's a mystery. It's a mixed bag. Just as surely as all this candy is not the same, that candy is not the same. Guess what? Everybody in this room today is not the same. Everybody in this room today is not on the same place, on the same page. Everybody's a little different. And really, you're in one of four categories. If this has never made a difference, made a temporary difference, or it's made a lasting difference in your life. You're as snug as a bug in a rug in those four categories. Every single person. There is no fifth category. That's the four categories. And I'm not the judge. I'm glad I'm not the judge, because I can go home and watch the Falcons play this afternoon. I don't have to try to figure out. I wonder who in that room. See, the only reason I have that list in my pocket so I can go visit people and try to keep up with people. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to figure out who's saved and who's not saved. I'm just trying to say, these people, we need to try to make new Sunday school classes for. We need to try. But you know your condition. You know your story. I don't know your story. You know your story. And the issue is not, did you follow a formula one time? The issue is not, are you still in the crowd? The issue is your life. Are you a believer and a follower of Jesus? Has it made a difference in your life? And at least I had enough sense. Let me tell you something. Now, this is all for free. I had enough sense to realize when I was 19 years old, I still ain't got this right. I done all this. And y'all probably tell my story. Y'all know what changed my life? Y'all know what I said when I was 19, I was in college? I said, I'm at least going to read what Jesus said. And you know what I did? I went to the source, and I began to read this, and I realized I'm not a follower of Jesus. It don't matter that I did all that other stuff. This is going to put you on the right path here. You read, you believe, you follow Christ. That's what's got to happen in your life. And you hopefully have a good idea of if you're a believer and a follower of Jesus. Not somebody that goes to church, not somebody who got baptized. Are you a believer and a follower of Jesus? That's the true verdict. And you need to be wise. You don't need to just say, well, I'm part of the crowd. Because Jesus clearly taught the crowd, you cannot base it on who's in this crowd or who's listening to the word. I'm going to ask Miss Jo Seal to come play for us, if you don't mind, Miss Jo Seal. And we'll give you an opportunity to respond before we conclude the service. Your Christian life, your life is between you and the Lord. Only you know to a certain extent what's going on in your life, what's happened in the past, what's happened in the present. And here's the last point I'll make. Y'all know what? After Jesus was raised from the dead, in Acts 2, Peter preached a sermon, and how many people got saved? 3,000. You know why? Because at the end of Luke's gospel, when people saw how Jesus died, they began to beat their chest and they went away sad. They knew they'd screwed up. See, this crowd's changed their mind. And they were ripe for the picking. Now they were ready to follow him when they believed. Right? And see, the point I'd make there is, it doesn't matter. It's never too late to really follow Christ. The invitation is always extended. It doesn't matter. Like I said, it took me 4 tries before I ever really became a believer and follower of Jesus. The same may be true in your life. But I ask everybody to stand together.